Where do conspiracy theorists go when there's nowhere left to hide? Well, if it's Wednesday, they go to the Conspiracy Cafe night at the Greenlight Cafe in Koh Samui, Thailand, where host Patrick Kell has had some very interesting people speaking recently. Patrick, who have you had on recently?
Well, Fintan, last week we had the Venerable Paul Wallace, an author, 13 books, talk about ancient memories of ET contact and the Bible before God. The week before we had Tom Charlesworth talk about the City of London, a brief history of financial innovation, bubbles, and the rise of the central banking system. I think before we had Bill Birch talking about the coming magnetic pole shift. We've had Dr. Eamon McKinney talk about Agenda 2030, the final push for the NWO. And we had yourself grace us with your talk on the three NWO Psy Wars, AIDS, 9/11, and COVID-19. And we've had Tim Kirby. Yeah, he was a geopolitical analyst based in Russia. Tim Kirby talked to us about the Ukraine-Russia conflict from a very different viewpoint. Interesting. We've had Alex Craner based in Monaco talk to us about Russia versus the West and the clash of two systems. So a lot of different people every week and fascinating information.
That is unbelievable. What a range of topics. So the whole idea is to create a venue for this kind of open discussion then. What's that based out of?
So we're based at a cafe that I host, a cafe called Greenlight Cafe. And we have a place we affectionately call the bunker. And in that room, the magic happens. That's where we have these in-person meetings as opposed to an online forum. And this is in Koh Samui, Thailand, which is where we are right now.
All right. And that means you have both a live audience and an online audience in a live open conspiracy theory event. It's hot. I like
it. Exactly.
Yeah. What's the philosophy behind all of this, Patrick?
So the philosophy behind it all is to create a venue where we can give people a place, a physical place to come and freely express their ideas, their opinions about certain events that are happening in the world. Basically, it's an opportunity for people who do not swallow the official narrative and feel a little bit, so they don't feel judged by others. That's very easy. They can come to this place and freely express their ideas, their opinions, without fear of being ridiculed or judged by others.
Yeah, and I experienced that myself when I presented there. It was great because when you're used to just doing live or YouTube presentations, and you'll get our channel on YouTube, just go to YouTube and look for Conspiracy Cafe, all one word, and we'll be live streaming there. So you'll also can get more about the philosophy behind this at samuireal.org, SAMUI, from the island of Koh Samui, real, as in not BS that you get on mainstream media, Patrick.
That's right.
That's right. Your mind is well opened, but how did that mind-opening journey for you move? And did your encounters with Mayan civilization have a part in that?
It totally did. So I'm from New Zealand originally, and I went to Japan in 1987. I spent 24 years in Japan, delving in. I went to university in Japan, and it was there that I had this urge to make a trip to Central America. So I spent 3 months, traveling through Mexico and Guatemala, specifically to go and see the ruins and to do a little bit of personal research on the Mayan ruins and learn a bit more about the Toltecs, the Aztecs. And I did that twice, actually, in 1995 and 1996. And that was really gave me an inroads into understanding ancient civilizations, which is a passion of mine, by the way. And then that coupled with the other various, topics and subjects I was reading about. I've always been interested in geopolitics, but also ancient civilizations in particular. And I thought, why not put this all together and create a little group where we can all come together and discuss this stuff? So yes, my trips to Central America have played a large role in it.
Yeah. Well, the philosophy is here on samuireal.org. and a mission statement, and also some advice to people as to how to start your own group, because that's a key part of this, isn't it, for you, Patrick,
It,
is to try and
it really
see. Yeah.
Exactly. So as you know, we have our in-person meetings, right? So when we have our meetings in the bunker, so the thing about it is we know that everybody there is there for a reason, and that one reason is that everybody knows something is not quite right with the world these days. Having said that, there are people in there with diametrically opposed viewpoints and opinions. And we welcome that. And so we can openly and freely discuss that, debate, and share ideas, debate ideas. And it's just safe environment. So basically, it's a safe haven that we've created at Greenlight Cafe for people to come and express themselves, without fear, again, of being ridiculed or judged. And so in a way, ultimately what we're doing is creating a community of open-minded and like-minded people. That's what we want. And so yes, so after doing it for 2 years, we realized that it seems to be working quite well. And we've to the point where not only do members of the group come up and give a proper presentation with mic and project a PowerPoint presentation, but every now and then we call on Zoom people by Zoom to come in and speak to us from overseas, like yourself, and that gives us a great opportunity to hear more in-depth analysis of what's going on in the world.
Yeah, it's an amazing concept, and it's something, folks, that you can implement anywhere, because Conspiracy Cafe is state of mind, and you can have
That's exactly right.
have it anywhere. But ideally,
It's state of mind.
or where there might be a venue which is run by people who are sympathetic to our perspective of being non-mainstream and open-minded, and who might like to use their venue on, it's a Wednesday night you have, but whatever night of the week. And you'd be amazed who might come out and start taking their tinfoil hats off and come out from behind, come out of the bunker and into the bunker.
That's right. We have tinfoil hat making workshops as well. I mean,
Exactly.
Yeah, but it really is a great.
We discussed your origins in Japan, which surely is mind-opening culturally, and no wonder you have an open mind, Patrick, if you spent all that time in Japan. But then Mayan and Hopi, just tell us a bit more about that journey.
So it was back in '95. I'd always wanted to go and visit. I had many books that I read about the Mayan culture, and so I decided just to do a trip. And I did a 3-month trip by myself, and Mexico and Guatemala. The original plan was to go from Mexico right down to Costa Rica, but the moment I crossed the border from Mexico into Guatemala, I just knew I'm staying the next 2 months in Guatemala. And I loved it. And so meeting the local people, and because I'm traveling alone, it's easier to make friends. I made friends with one guy where I stayed, was claimed by the locals to be a shaman. And he was building the old Mayan styled houses, or dwellings, so to speak. And I became friends with him. And then because of our friendship, I got to go to Tikal. If you're familiar with Tikal, it's one of the largest pyramids in Guatemala. And I met many times with him. I even slept on the pyramids once, which is a great experience. And then I spent a bit of time dwelling in the libraries and going through some of the ancient civilization texts and that. And it was fascinating to see things like the flood, the Great Flood, appears in these texts as well. Like we read in the Bible and you hear about it everywhere. It was amazing. And so I was so impressed with Guatemala that 6 months later, I went back again for 3 months again. And I hired a guide to take me into the jungle deeper to go and see a place called El Mirador. And again, it was just fascinating. This guide was the son of a well-known archaeologist. And so he had great knowledge about the area. And he showed me stuff that he would normally never show other people. And it blew my mind at how big the civilization actually was. And from that, also been interested in some of the things like in Japan, in Yonaguni, they discovered these undersea ruins. Some say they're not ruins, they're natural formations, but they certainly do look like ruins. And it just makes you wonder like how old civilization is. So
Yes.
all of these little experiences, plus my mother is Samoan. And so I've been to Samoa many times. They have similar stories even in Samoa. Supposedly the cradle of Polynesia, these stories that go back thousands and thousands of years have always fascinated me. So I thought, let's just bring it all together.
You have a Hopi connection there too on that journey, have you?
So interestingly, when I was in Japan, one of my students, one of my English language students, I taught her privately. She was a dealer in Native American jewelry. And so she would go to the US every 3 months, buy Native American jewelry from specific sellers, and then she would bring it back to Japan and sell it. She would always write a personal introduction to the person she was buying from. So her clients all knew who these people were. So she decided to actually bring the jewelry smiths over and do weekend seminars. I was the interpreter, interpreting from Japanese to English, English to Japanese. So I got to meet people from the Hopi tribe, from the Blackfoot tribe, Santo Domingo, from the Zuni nation. And so when these people came, I would always spend days with them, asking them about this story of creation. And it was just fascinating. A year later, she actually decided to take me to the US for 10 days. And then we went around New Mexico, Arizona, and we actually visited some of these silversmiths. And we went to Zuni in New Mexico. We went to Hopiland in Arizona, and actually got to stay on the Mesa in Hopi. It was just amazing. And because she had the connections, we could make stronger. I could get more information from the Hopi about their story, about the timeline of our civilizations. It was just a fascinating trip,
Well, it's an area that's been explored by Randall Carlson and his work,
Right.
and by many others, to timeline what may have happened 11,000, 12,000 years ago, in terms of destroying what was a global civilization. And it sounds from what you're laying out there that if we were to say that there's a possibility that there might be prior lifetimes for people, then I would hazard a guess that you've got deep connections into that, dude, because your whole life path seems to be to trace back those roots.
Yeah, it's surprising that it's in the last 10, 15, 20 years that I really have felt the specific desire to gather more information, but bring people who are more knowledgeable than myself together. And that, I guess, is the spark, and that is the seed of Samui Real, the meetings that we have here at Greenlight Cafe. And it's the idea of bringing people, not just myself, but more people who are more knowledgeable than me in these areas, but also other areas that I'm interested in, but don't have much knowledge. And so the whole group itself and the room is full of a wealth of knowledge. We have PhD, world-renowned sinologists. We have, commercial airline pilots. We have doctors, nurses, teachers, homemakers, all kinds of people from all walks of life that come to the bunker because they want to learn more. So it's about re-educating themselves and finding out more about what's going on. To basically, in the end, everybody wants to regain their personal power. I think people have come to the point where they understand that we've been stripped of our power, personal power, or we've allowed the powers that be, to take our personal power. And by educating ourselves, by arming ourselves with knowledge, we can see the world with more clarity. And when we can do that, then we have more of a say. People feel they have more power to speak out. They feel more courage to speak out and express themselves. And it's because we've all been pushed into this little box and our voices have been stifled. This is why the community is thriving now, because people have had enough and people want more.
Yeah. Well, you have built community, Patrick, because on Wednesday nights at the Greenlight Cafe, you have, 30, 40, 50 people. You have people online. You have people who are present in the venue. And this is going on Wednesday after Wednesday after Wednesday after Wednesday. So it's happening, folks. It just shows you that, you know, if you create the venue, then there's a need for it. And although the people are not huge in number, they need that venue and they will come. And I think just talking to you now, I'm starting to feel that it's actually the philosophy of that ancient civilization that you're attempting to reignite in your Samui Reel philosophy, that a philosophy of respect and truth seeking. It really seems to me you're bringing an ancient philosophy back to life, Patrick.
It's absolutely, as you say, it's absolutely that. And people feel need for these groups, and people naturally come, and it's like a safe haven for many people. And now the group is growing and growing. I mean, you know, we were by introduction only, word of mouth only. And we've had like 480 people in the middle of COVID when Samui has absolutely zero tourists coming in. I don't know where these people came from, but they've been around on the island. But this is what brought them together. And so the group is growing. And you're right. The philosophy is the glue, the mission statement, the objectives, the code of conduct, and the guiding principles. That is the glue that holds the group together and creates a peaceful community. Regardless of whether you agree with each other or not, it doesn't matter. It's about community and people. There's a yearning for community.
It's a terrific initiative, Patrick, and something that I hope will spread. In the meantime, you can tune into it by searching for the live stream on Wednesday nights on the YouTube. Just look for Conspiracy Cafe, all one word, or go to samuireal.org, SAMUIREAL.org, where you'll get more on the philosophy, mission statement, all of it, to set your own group up. Patrick, Kell, I know you're going to keep blowing people's minds because I'm not going to ask you who have you got on this week or the week after, because I suggest to folks, you really should go and find out. Hey, Patrick?
That's right. We're waiting to see you.
Yes, just check it out, because you heard the list of topics there, folks. It's highly diverse. I never know who he's going to bring on next. It's terrific. And the idea of it too is that, you know, some of it I don't agree with and some of it I really do. And that exchange is just so exciting. And the range of topics you're covering is so exciting. Thanks very much, Patrick, for joining us today.
Thank you, Fintan.